Hello family. Welcome back to K-Drama Lens. Take a breath before we go any further. This isn't a story you rush through or half listen to while scrolling. It's one of those moments where you sit still, let the silence stretch, and really feel what's being said. Because this story didn't explode into the world. It seeped into it quietly. And by the time everyone realized what was happening, the ground had already shifted. When the first rumors surfaced, they didn't come wrapped in certainty. There were no bold headlines screaming divorce. Just a strange change around you. Long fans noticed it instinctively, the way they always do. The pauses in interviews that felt a little too long. The answers that no longer carried warmth. The subtle shift from we to I. Tell me honestly. When did you first feel it? Because most people sensed the ending long before it was confirmed. At first, everyone tried to explain it away. Busy schedules, personal space, growth. That's how these stories often begin, with denial dressed as optimism. Fans defended the distance, filled in the gaps with hope, convinced themselves that silence didn't mean separation. But clues have a way of piling up whether we're ready or not. Missed appearances. Solo events where togetherness once lived. Separate paths that stopped looking temporary. A silence that wasn't peaceful but heavy, like something already broken waiting to be named. Then came the confirmation. Quiet, controlled. One word that changed everything. Divorce. No long letter. No emotional explanation. Just fact. And sometimes facts hurt more when they arrive without comfort. For fans who had believed in that marriage, who defended it, celebrated it, and saw it as something solid, the realization landed slowly and painfully. Illusions don't shatter all at once. They crumble piece by piece, until one day you realize you're holding nothing but memory. And while fans were still processing that loss, another presence became impossible to ignore. Young Mei Mei. Before you jump to conclusions, slow down with me. Because young Mei Mei didn't suddenly appear after the divorce. She had been there before. In shared spaces. In projects. In moments that once felt harmless, forgettable, unimportant. But hindsight has a way of changing everything. Old clips were replayed with new eyes. Smiles were paused and zoomed into. Conversations once dismissed as friendly began to feel loaded with meaning. And suddenly fans were asking questions they hadn't wanted to ask before. Yu Long never stood in front of a camera and said he divorced to marry young Mei Mei. Those words were never spoken. There was no announcement, no declaration, no clear timeline offered to the public. But actions speak in ways statements can't. Increased public proximity. Familiarity that didn't feel new. Comfort that looked practiced, not discovered. Timing that felt uncomfortably close. And fans were left to interpret everything without guidance, filling silence with speculation. Reactions split instantly. Some felt betrayed, as if a promise had been broken not only to a partner but to the audience that believed in him. They questioned sincerity. They questioned honesty. Others defended him fiercely, saying no one should stay trapped in an unhappy marriage just to preserve an image. They argued that leaving is sometimes the bravest form of truth. And then there were those caught in between, unsure what to feel, unsure whether love had bloomed naturally or crossed a line too early. Here's the uncomfortable question no one can answer clearly. When does a marriage truly end? Is it when papers are signed and statements are released? Or is it when emotional distance quietly replaces intimacy long before anything becomes official? That gray area is where most of the pain lives. It's invisible, unmeasurable, and deeply human. Young Mei Mei became a focal point for judgment almost overnight. Some blamed her entirely, casting her as the reason everything fell apart. Others insisted she was simply present when something already broken finally collapsed. She didn't explain herself. She didn't deny or dramatize. She stayed quiet. And silence, in a world driven by narratives, can feel louder than any defense ever could. What makes this story sting isn't just the divorce. It's the emotional overlap fans can't ignore. The feeling that one chapter didn't fully close before another began. Whether that perception is fair or not almost becomes secondary. Because perception shapes emotion. And emotion shapes reaction. Especially in an industry built on image, timing, and trust. And then there's the unseen side of this story. The person who stepped out of the frame quietly. The marriage that ended without a voice, without closure for the public. Divorces don't happen in isolation. Someone always carries the weight away from the cameras, unseen, unnamed, but deeply affected. Even now, long after the initial shock faded from headlines, fans are still asking the same questions. Was this inevitable? Was it avoidable? And does knowing the answer even change how it feels? When Yu Long smiled again, truly smiled, some felt relief for him, like he had finally found air after holding his breath for too long. Others felt it was too soon, like happiness arriving before grief had finished speaking. Small moments continued to fuel debate. Shared spaces that didn't need to be shared. Glances that lingered. Comfort that felt established rather than new. None of it was loud. None of it was officially confirmed. But subtlety has a way of screaming when people are watching closely, especially fans who have followed every step of the journey. Supporters tried to reframe the story to make peace with it. They said the marriage must have ended emotionally long before the divorce became public. That love doesn't disappear overnight. That staying too long can sometimes be more dishonest than leaving. That perspective brought relief to some fans, allowing them to accept what happened without anger. Others remained unconvinced, pointing out how carefully public images are managed and how coincidences are rarely accidental. What complicates everything is how human it all feels beneath the fame. Love doesn't wait for perfect timing. Hearts don't consult public opinion. Feelings don't pause just because circumstances are inconvenient. But consequences still exist, especially when lives are lived under constant observation, where every decision becomes a lesson and every silence becomes a statement. Ask yourself this. If Yu Long had stayed in a marriage that no longer worked, would fans have eventually criticized him for living a lie? If he had waited longer before appearing close to someone new, would the pain feel less sharp? Or would disappointment have simply taken another shape? Sometimes, no version of the story escapes scrutiny. And think about the private moments we'll never see. The phone calls left unanswered. The quiet tears in a hotel room. The long drives with no one to share the road. These fragments, invisible to the public, are the spaces where heartbreak actually lives. Fans see headlines, social media posts, curated smiles, but the real story happens in rooms with doors closed and windows drawn. No matter how this story began or where it leads, something was lost. Trust for some, illusion for others, certainty for everyone. And maybe that's the real shock. Not the divorce itself or who he may marry next, but how quickly what felt stable can dissolve without warning. And here's something else to consider. As Yu Long and Mei Mei continue their public appearances, as collaborations continue, as smiles continue to be captured in photographs, fans are left balancing two emotions: hope and skepticism. Can love born from uncertainty feel real? Can happiness built on the ruins of something else be forgiven? These questions don't have easy answers. As time passes, new stories will replace this one. New headlines will take over timelines. Attention will shift as it always does. But for those who followed closely, this will linger. Not because of drama, but because it forces uncomfortable reflection about love, timing, and truth. Because even when the cameras stop, the emotions remain, layered and complex, stubborn and persistent. So before you leave, sit with that feeling. Not judgment, not anger, not excitement, just honesty. Because sometimes the most shocking part of a love story isn't betrayal or romance. It's realizing that even the most carefully watched lives are still painfully, unpredictably human. And as fans, as observers, we learn something too. That love, heartbreak, and truth don't always arrive in order, and life rarely waits for permission to unfold.